Hi, I'm Woody Huffines. I own the Nerds to Go in McKinney and Frisco, Texas, and this is Tech for the Untechnical. Coronavirus, COVID-19, Zoom, privacy, epidemiology, how are all these things related? We've been talking about the Zoom issues and how Zoom has privacy issues and security issues. There was the Zoom bombing where some wingnut shows up in your meeting and says ugly things. And there's the problem with encryption, that the Zoom's end-to-end encryption really wasn't. And then there was the fact that some of the Zoom calls were routed through China. Probably not great. There was a flaw in the Zoom software that allowed people to take Macintosh computers over, operate the webcam, operate the microphone, take over the computer. Not so good. And then there was some indication that Zoom was selling user data to Facebook, whether you had a Facebook account or not. So how did Zoom, which has been around for quite a while, all of a sudden pop up as having a major problem with privacy and security? Well, it's because it got popular. At the end of December, the biggest Zoom day in terms of people using Zoom were about 10 million people. In March, they were regularly having 200 million people, 20 times more people in the 3-month period. So the bad guys, up until we got into the coronavirus social distancing stay-at-home orders, really didn't have a reason to try to break into Zoom because Zoom wasn't, in the grand scheme of things, popular enough for them to make any money or do any good going against Zoom. The point here is if you're a small system or a small piece of software or a small operating system, the bad guys really don't have a reason to go after you because it's not popular enough for you to make money or get any leverage on a small system. If something gets really popular, then it gets really big, which brings me to the second thing that is a privacy concern in this COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic world. Apple and Android, or Apple and Google, have gotten together and they want to create, or they have created and are about to roll out, an app that measures your contacts and contact tracing and to see where you've been and who you've been in proximity to. Now, in terms of a pandemic or an epidemic, one of the things that is traditionally a way to get the epidemic stopped is something called contact tracing. So if you get sick, then the public health authorities come and ask you who you've been around, who have you seen, where have you gone, who have you talked to. And then they try to contact all the people that you've been in contact with and trace those contacts, and then trace the contacts back from that and back from that and back from that, etc. So if somebody ends up with the disease, they can go test or quarantine the people with whom they've come in contact. Which, now, let's take me for example. It's pretty simple. For the last month, I've gotten up in the morning, been at my house, gotten in my truck, gone to McKinney, Texas, and been at the store, and then gotten in the truck and go home. So if I came up as someone that had tested positive for the coronavirus, it would be pretty easy to trace my contacts. It'd be my employees at the store and our list of customers that had been in that week. Pretty straightforward. The challenge becomes, what if I had gone to 2 or 3 different grocery stores and maybe to a computer store to buy some parts and 3 or 4 other places? So now, potentially, instead of a very small list of people, that list of people is really big. And from a public health perspective, I can't give them the names of the people that were in the Kroger at the same time I was in the Kroger because I don't know who those people were. So in contact tracing space, it becomes very difficult to contact trace in a complex environment, which is why Google and the Android operating system for phones and Apple have gotten together and they've created something that has some interoperability between the phones. Now, what this modification does is it uses the Bluetooth on the phone in the operating system to find other phones that are close to the first phone. So if I'm carrying my phone around and I come in close contact with you, our phones talk to each other through Bluetooth and say, hey, these 2 phones were in close proximity. According to Apple and Google, the functionality in the phone doesn't store the location that two phones are close together, just that those phones were close together. In other words, they would find out that my phone and your phone had been in close proximity on Tuesday, but not that your phone and my phone were in close proximity on Tuesday at Kroger. The idea being that if I test positive for COVID-19, that they could take the data from my phone using anonymized data and say, okay, what are all the phones that were in close contact with my phone over the last, say, 5, 6, 7 days, or whatever the incubation period is for the virus. And then they could send a text message to all of those phones that says, hey, you've been around somebody that's been tested positive for the COVID-19. You might want to get tested. To get tested, download this app, and it will give you the information you need. So, key points. They're saying that it's not tracking the location of the phone, just the proximity of two phones. They're saying that it's between Bluetooth, that it's not a Wi-Fi. They're saying that when it comes time to get notified, that it would be an opt-in to download the application. In other words, to get the information, you would have to opt in to the download of the application, and that you would be notified that you needed to opt in if you get tested. And they say that when the coronavirus or the pandemic is over, they'll take this functionality out of the operating system and get rid of the application because they don't want to track that information. Color me skeptical. There's an old story about a scorpion that asks a frog to carry him across a river because the scorpion can't swim. So he asks the frog, let me hop on your back and you can carry me across the river. And the frog says, I don't think that's a good idea. You'll sting me and I'll get paralyzed and I'll drown. And the scorpion says, why would I do that? If I sting you while we're crossing the river and you drown, then I'll drown. And the frog sees that as a pretty good argument, so the scorpion hops on the frog's back and across the river they go. They get out to the middle of the river, and the scorpion stings the frog. And as the frog is paralyzed and sinking, he looks at the scorpion and says, why have you done this? You've destroyed us both. And the scorpion says, it's just my nature. From my perspective, it is the nature of these large multimedia companies to collect and use information to market to us. That's how Facebook works. That's how Google works. That's how Instagram works. That's how Twitter works. What they do is they use information and aggregate that information and leverage that information to sell us things. Now, it's a great idea to do contact tracing, and it's a great idea to do contact tracing for all of our healths. But while our health is important, the outcomes of having that capability in the phones just scare me. So what I'm saying to you is understand that that's coming. They're going to roll it out and put it in the operating system where you want it or not. I think it's important that we be aware as people who use technology and have technology intruding into our life to make sure we circle back with these users and make sure we circle back with these companies and make sure that they take this stuff out. Because in the long term, and I tell you this as a data person, if you've got the data and you need the data, you have a use for the data, you'll use the data. I'm Woody Huffines. I own the Nerds to Go in McKinney and Frisco, Texas. You know the drill. Hit the subscribe button, mash the notification bell, give me a thumbs up, make a comment, and let's hope this coronavirus stuff goes away pretty quickly so our phones aren't spying on us for the rest of our natural lives.